The climate change emergency government sure has their taxpayer-funded drivers traveling around a fair bit to drive ministers and other quote-unquote important people all over the place. Today, I'll show you the documents to prove it. You know, there's that age-old adage that if the Liberals didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. Well, that's never been more true than when you check out their driving habits. For example, they want us all to be driving electric vehicles, but when you look at the Liberal government's own fleet, it's largely gas burners, just like normal people would drive, for the exact same reasons that normal people would drive them: reliability, easy access to refueling, handling on winter roads, range in cold weather, etc., etc. The list goes on and on. And while the Liberals have declared a climate emergency so deadly that they need to tax literally everything you do in ever-increasing increments in the form of carbon taxes, these people sure don't behave that way. Today's story of predictable Liberal hypocrisy comes to us by way of an order paper question posed by Conservative MP John Nader of Perth Wellington. He asked the whole of government to provide a response regarding the government's executive vehicle fleet and travel expenses incurred by chauffeurs or drivers of those vehicles for travel outside of the National Capital Region. As in, these people don't need a driver in their home ridings where their personal cars are. So what were these people using the executive fleet for, and where were they taking them? Now, what Nader uncovered were several examples of important people, again, quote unquote important people, getting driven to or from the Montreal airport to catch flights rather than flying from Ottawa to catch that connecting flight. Now, this should come as no surprise, because an examination of government flight records and executive vehicle use that I did a couple years ago turned up that Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland was frequently sending her limo ahead of her plane to Montreal to meet her to pick her up at the airport. Yeah, I know. Now, on page 36 of these documents, we can see that Defense Minister Anita Anand regularly has her driver going to Oakville to pick her up to drive her around, including driving her between Oakville and Kingston, instead of what the executive fleet is supposed to be used for, driving these people around Ottawa. Now, on page 60, we can see that Deputy Finance Minister Michael Sabia gets driven home from Ottawa to Montreal instead of just catching a flight like normal people would. On page 95, Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson took his driver to Montreal to drive him around for COP15. Now, that's the recent UN Biodiversity Conference. He did this to attend a conference which lectures the rest of us that biodiversity is at risk because we might use an SUV to take our kids to hockey practice. Then Wilkinson had his limo take him to Hamilton for a cabinet retreat to drive him around there. On page 112, the Minister of Public Safety, Marco Mendicino's staff get driven to Montreal to give him documents. Friends, remember these things when you're paying at least an extra 10 cents a liter at the pump out of pocket, because the people who pay nothing for their travel and abuse their privileges and refuse to live the way they ask you to do say that you should. All for the environment. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. If you would like to help Rebel News offset our research costs and filing fees, please head over to rebelinvestigates.com to make a donation today. And thank you to everyone who makes this important work possible.